Coming up on today's episode, a little bit about the V10 release. We got some Q3 numbers coming your way, and Tim interviews some man named Elon. Let's get ludicrous. Hey there, and welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we talk about all the cool future stuff that's happening today that's going to make tomorrow totally ludicrous. I'm Joe Scott from the Answers with Joe YouTube channel. With me is Tim Dodd.
Hi, it's me, that Dodd, with the me from places. And also, we have Ben Solons.
What's up, guys? It's Ben Solons from Teslanomics. You're that Dodd? Is that what the...
I don't know. That... Hey,
this is what happens when you've done a show 54 times and you're still trying to be original and creative with it. You just start throwing stuff to the wall.
Yep. You just turn the brain off, go on autopilot version 10.
That's it. It'll do it for you. It will smartly summon itself to you.
The thoughts.
That is the fastest segue that we've ever had, I think.
Just
like
right
we barely got the intro in and it's already...
We got a lot to talk about. This is some wild stuff, guys. So, Joe, do you want to tell your story first?
I gotta hear this. I really want to hear this. Yes.
Okay,
Please.
so all right. So, V10 came out, Smart Summon. I do have the enhanced autopilot feature, so I was able to get that. I was all excited, just like everybody. I get the new V10, all these new things. I'm like, Spotify, woo, and signing into YouTube and watching my face in my car, which is kind of weird. And then, and I thought I would try out the Smart Summon. So I was out I live near a lake here in Dallas, and I went out there to shoot some things for Monday's video. And while I was there, I was like, hey, why don't I just have this car come to me?
Wait, where were you?
It's called White Rock Lake. It's a little lake here nearby.
Okay.
Supposedly the largest urban lake in North America.
Oh, is it that one like out by the airport, kind of?
No.
Oh, I just... Sorry.
It's
keep going.
It's in East Dallas. It's a good place to go run and have a nice little lake thing happening. Okay. But anyway, so I went out there and I was like, I'm going to have the car come to me. And I already had a camera set up. So I recorded what happened. It was less than impressive. But I'm sharing this not to bag on Tesla. I thought I would share it because there might have been a specific issue that my car ran into that maybe other people have had this experience with. I don't know.
Is this a spoiler?
Do I know?
It might have been an issue that my car ran into. Is the ran into part the spoiler here?
Oh, no. That was just poorly worded. Okay, so can y'all see the screen?
Yes.
See my big face there? All right. So you probably can't hear this, and that's probably fine because I'm talking to the camera. But so can you see my arrow walking around here?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my car back there. And as you can see, it's a straight shot. So all it has to do is just back up and come right to me. Very empty, the parking lot is. By the way, can you hear me talking on there?
No, we can't.
No, okay, all right. Because I was like talking over myself. It's kind of weird. So, okay, anyway, I'm showing what happens on the app and everything and how it looks. So I'll punch in here. So I started it up, and it backs up perfectly well. And then these yahoos walk into my shot. And so I actually stopped it because they were walking right over to where the car was going. And like the whole reason I thought this was a good place to test it was because it was a pretty empty parking lot, right? And so they walked right over there.
That's a funny thing. So I just got done testing, and when I did it, I had the same experience. People not only walk everywhere, but they drive like without regard for the line. So they just drive like mashed diagonally across it. It's actually funny that it's more challenging in a empty parking lot.
I think it's actually funny that they've chosen to go with this Smart Summon parking lot thing because it is, I think, more challenging.
Yeah. Autopilot's way easier, I think.
Yeah. All right, so again, these guys are still over here and they're just taking forever. And I was like, okay. I looked on the app and it looked like it was actually going to like do kind of a U-turn and come down that straight shot that you're seeing there.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. So I went for it and...
do it for the views.
And so it backs up. And then it goes back into the parking spot. as slowly as possible because we're all waiting. Okay, so the wheel's turning.
Yep.
And
I can see that.
it just goes right onto a curb.
Oh.
Bump.
Oh. For real?
Whoops.
And now, so the rest of this is me like trying to get it to do something. It never moves. And then I go over there and I record. Like it's right up on the curb.
Did it scrunch your
man.
bumper?
Yeah, it scraped at the bottom a little bit. It's not like visible.
It
Okay,
looks
so
like
here's
it
the deal. Like
popped
there's
the
all
thing,
this like
too.
tall grass around it. Could that have messed with it?
No.
Well, hang on. Go back. The curb line is harder to see than a normal one. It's a grassy parking lot. You know, that's abnormal.
Where did it think it was going?
Yeah, you can see it just kind of scraped up the little flashing along the bottom. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's not the worst.
That's kind of
thing
what it's
ever
there
happened,
for, at
but-
least. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Dang
wouldn't
it.
worry about that. That sucks,
No,
though.
I'm not worried about it, but it was just like that was my first experience with
Right.
it in a totally empty parking lot, and it just ran right into a curb.
I think that is
uh,
an unusual parking lot because there's not like good lines, and the curb looks like it's pretty well grassed over almost. So
I mean,
maybe
it's
it's kind
definitely
of
a
a
worn
weird
down,
edge.
not very used parking lot, but that's kind of why I thought it would be a good place to
Right.
use it because it was not very
Right.
used. So anyway, that happened,
Oh,
but
man.
the thing that gets me is like it was doing perfect at first, like it backed up and it was ready to go, and then I stopped it and I let it sit there for a while these people were taking their time, and I kind of wonder if I had just let it keep going, would it have been okay? Because that you can't really see it, but this kind of curves back around. It might
Right.
have just swung back over here to me.
Right.
But I should probably take it back and try it again, but I guess you could say I'm a little shell shocked.
Gunshot. Yeah. Well, why don't I share
That's how
my
that went
experiences, and that'll maybe help you decide what to do next.
I know I've seen plenty of good videos of it working perfectly. It's just, of course, mine
Let's
is
hear your
gonna
story, though,
do
too,
that.
because
But yeah, let's hear
did-
it.
Well, so first I landed 2 nights ago from the trip, and my camera guy and I were like, wait, I have smart summon. Let's bring the car to us. You know, so we did that. And the first time I was giddy as a 14-year-old boy. I don't know, like a kid at Christmas. Like I was literally like losing my mind. And then the next time I tried it was yesterday at Target. I had to go there to get a birthday present for my nephew, and it's pouring rain. And like it got stronger rain too. So I'm like, this is it. Let's see if I can bring the car to me and actually have it like save me from getting absolutely soaking wet. Turned on advanced summon. It pulled out. A lady walks across it. It stopped. It kept coming, and it pulled right up to me. And no one saw it. The lady didn't notice that there was a driver of this car. Nobody noticed. I'm just by myself, and I'm like literally laughing out loud to myself, getting in the car, hooting and hollering like a kid. It was so funny because it was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted. That was the one. And then last night too, I had a couple of friends over, and we were up on the balcony and watching the car drive around a parking lot. Like I just kept placing the pin at different places. It wasn't doing great. It was not doing great because it's like a brick parking lot, and you know, really weird markings and stuff. It was very
think
questioning.
do you think it cares about the markings at all?
Yes.
Like my experience has been, and I've tested it a couple days for the video I did, and then I did a bunch this morning. When it's coming towards me, like, you know, to pick me up, and I'm standing in the middle of the lines, it doesn't care. It just drives straight across all of them. It's like, in my experience, it's like, whatever. Like, it definitely, when I was doing it, mapped out a way that was correct, like to follow where it should be driving. But then when it came up to actually like pull up to me, it was just like, brr, like just straight across all of them. So I wonder what, like, in 2 tests I did today, I did the same route multiple times. It backed up. It drove around this big median, kind of like you had, Joe, and then came up to me. And then I went and did it again, and someone knew, it wasn't someone, it was a trash truck, had pulled in and was blocking the entrance to the road that it had just previously taken. And I hit it again, and it was going like it was going to turn into the trash truck, but it detected it and stopped, and then went around the trash truck and then came back. So I was like, that is the perfect example of it actually being adaptive and learning, and not
Right.
just like some pre-programmed route or something. Like it actually saw something and was like, oh crap, I need to like adjust where I'm going, and it did so on the fly. I thought it was amazing.
Is it
still
possible
lots
I
of
just
bugs,
have a
though.
mentally challenged Tesla?
Maybe.
Because y'all seem so smart, and mine's just like curb.
Well, definitely double check its route that it's planning, and if you don't like it, like move your pin or something, and like let it recalculate. You know,
Well,
if it's
Here's my question: when you were like both of the examples you just gave sounded pretty complicated.
yeah.
And there were people walking in front and that kind of thing. Did you keep your thumb on the button the whole time?
No. I'd let up if it was doing something I didn't like.
Right.
Yeah,
You know, and it stops quick. It gets on the brakes right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, for my testing today, I kept it on the entire time. There was even a girl that had a dog, and she was throwing the ball across the parking lot for the dog. So this dog's like booking it across, and I just kept
Jeez.
it going. And you know, he never really got ran in front of it, but
He never really got ran over, but
Never
I
really
clipped him
got
a
ran
little.
over.
I just had to go buy her a new dog. It was just, you know, sorry, that's why we were late with the podcast. No, it's definitely like, so testing in our driveway, because this is actually the like more reasonable use case, is like, hey, back out of my driveway. I was really curious because my driveway has like a very slight incline to it. It kind of has like 2 levels. And previously it wouldn't go up over that little bump. It would just stop with the regular summon. We were doing advanced summon. The thing pulls up into the rocks and is like going to drive off the like garden area where the retaining wall is. We're like, oh shit, like we gotta stop. So I don't know. I you know, the thing that I keep going back to with this is that it's a machine learning system, and the more edge cases like this and the more people use it, the smarter it's going to get. So I wouldn't be shocked if in a month we're like not even talking about it, if it's like just so
Yeah.
good at that point, you know?
Well, I mean, this might be a good conversation to have about, like, you know, what are the smart ways to use Smart Summon? What are the best ways, the safest ways? Because again, like, mine was working just fine until I stopped to let those people get by for however long that was, like 3 or 5 minutes. And then it was just suddenly like, I don't know what to do with myself. But it seemed to be working perfectly before that.
I definitely think one thing that would increase my confidence a lot is if it would show us cameras. If it streamed
Like on the
back,
phone.
if it streamed back on the phone, the front, and you know, or a 360-ish view, you know, where you see the cameras around the car, kind of at least an idea, just so you totally just so you have a sense, you know. That'd be cool, but that would take a lot of data to stream well. But I mean,
Yeah, that's a challenge.
but then
I would
again,
like to see
drones do it.
I would like to see the ability to adjust the route. Because like in my testing, even this morning, it was like, hey, the route you want to take puts you behind these trees and these other things where I can't see at all what's happening. So, but there's clearly a better way just right over here. I don't know why you're choosing to go that way, but could I just kind of drag
Draw it.
the route that it would take to get to me? I think that would be a big
I think that'd be
improvement.
great too for AI learning. You know,
Yeah.
for machine learning, if we were then telling it like how we would do it,
Yeah.
you'd think
100%.
that'd be like a really good way to program AI.
Sure. Yeah, the machine.
Yeah.
learning. I would just generally speaking, back to your question, Joe, about good whatever. I would just not recommend people use it at all right now. Like unless you're really just, you know, into pushing it and okay with, you know, potentially getting your car into an accident, I just wouldn't do it. For the normal everyday driver, I just wouldn't.
You're saying kind of let the machine learning thing with everybody else doing it.
Give
get a
it
little bit better.
a month or two,
Yeah.
or just do it in a controlled setting where you know you
Yeah.
have clear line of sight. Like right now, it's much more. I think like Tim, you know, I think your use case in the rain is kind of the only one where I'm like that really makes sense. Beyond that, I'm like, just walk. Like,
And
we
I can
need to
see it
walk
the whole
more.
time too.
Like-
And I can see it, like, that's the other thing is like, I've only done it when I can see it very clearly. From my balcony, I have
Right.
this great view of the parking lot. You know, it's a small parking lot. Just watch it do little laps around it. And I'd change the pin, you know, and watch it like do that. So it's no problem. But yeah, from Target, like clear line of sight, I think that's really important right now.
Yeah, and
Don't
not a
trust it
busy
to-
parking lot.
Yeah, with a lot of curbs and stuff.
I did have fun this morning where I used that "Come to Me" feature, and I just started running in the parking lot, and it was just following me the entire
that's
way.
cool.
Oh, it's your pet. Remember he
was-
was saying someday the car will just follow you like a pet?
Yeah.
That was the exact idea. I'm like, is
Yeah.
that really? I'm like, let's go have a look. And then and I started doing it and walking. It wasn't fast enough because what would happen is it would like catch up to you and then be like, oh, pedestrian, waiting for pedestrian.
Right.
But so I just started running and it was cruising, man. It was kind of fun.
That's crazy. That's pretty nuts.
There was a use case there actually though that was interesting because we were doing Smart Summon to where I was at. And then it's like, hey, okay, let's do it again. Let's go put the car back where it is. Instead of having to get in the car and then drive it over there, I just walked over there with that come to me feature and it just followed me. So it's kind of neat. It's just mind blowing. I think all this stuff is just really cool, and it's just going to open up the conversation about self-driving cars. And
Right. Well,
I
it's
think
definitely
in general that's the best outcome.
it's
here.
definitely the infancy, but like this is a moment where I was with my friends last night and we were playing with it and like everyone's just like, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking like we'll remember this when this was impressive and we'll be like, remember like when we were impressed that it could kind of a little bit drive around a parking lot and that seemed like unbelievable, because we've all probably done that with our first smartphone or something. Like, can you believe I can surf the internet on my phone? That was a huge deal.
Maps was a big
Maps.
one for me. The original, the first BlackBerry that got Google Maps. I remember being like, oh my God.
Can you believe this?
Yeah, like I'm going to conquer the world. Like imagine if Napoleon had this. Right?
But it's just one of those things that I think, it won't be long before it's so normal. I think in 5 years, like think about how far it's going to progress in the next 5 years. It'll be
100%.
nuts. I think in 5 years, it will laugh at these first attempts.
Now, let me ask you guys about other V10 stuff. Besides that, what is your favorite feature?
I was waiting for Spotify for a really long time, so that's probably right up there. I did notice that the visualization is a lot better,
Good
a lot
drive.
less dancing.
Yeah.
The other cars don't
Yep.
disco dance as much as they used to.
Yep. I like that a lot. I like even like the autopilot visualization just seems to be a little smoother. Like it just feels more confident and it looks really good. I think I really do like having YouTube and Netflix and stuff. As much as I, like on the road trips, if I could sit there and, because I'm normally doing that, like if I'm sitting there charging for 25 minutes, I'll pull up YouTube videos on my phone. If I can have them on the screen, that's like the best experience, So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Spotify is cool. I don't know if it's that big of a deal for me. I think Netflix, like me and Jenny went, had a little date day, and we got some ice cream. And we're sitting there in the car watching some Netflix with the ice cream. Like it was great. I think it's just such a cool thing. And the screen seems pretty good. Although I have seen quite a bit of in certain colors, it seems to flicker. So I'm not sure. Almost like if your white balance is set to auto and it's like constantly changing, it kind of there were some videos on YouTube I was watching where it was doing that. So I wasn't really. Yeah, so I wasn't sure if that was the screen or how the stream was coming in. There's a lot of variables there. So, but I think that's just such a cool thing that the car is truly becoming like a tablet. It's like a whole new experience.
Yeah. A smart car that's not a smart car company. Like a smart car, a little two-seater.
Which ironically, Tesla made the batteries for the electric smart cars.
Oh, that's right. That's funny.
I think that's what saved them, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is that it, guys?
I think that's that. I mean,
It might be kind of cool if there was like a thing you could press to get into your Model 3 as opposed to your phone. Like that might be an interesting feature. I wonder if they're doing something like that soon.
Man, remember when they had that key that didn't even have like, you had to like touch it to get in and stuff, and it wasn't even like a very good key?
It just looked like a car.
You mean this
Why don't
one?
they just update it?
There it is. Tesla relaunches Model 3 key fob and fixes major drawback.
I had no idea you were going to say that.
Bum, bum, bum.
What's the major drawback that it fixed?
The major drawback is passive entry.
There you go, Ben. Are you happy now?
I am.
You had some snark in your voice. Hesitation.
Well, I need to go test it. because I haven't tested it yet. But if it works how it should have worked from day one, then great. I think it's actually useful. Because I still have the issue. So me, the problem now, this is funny with the phone, is the phone does work 100% of the time if I am in the app selected on the Model 3. Because we have multiple Teslas and we have the power walls, you can like swipe from thing to thing. So unless I'm on the Model 3, it doesn't work. And it's not my daily driver, so I'm generally not on it. So this is cool. Yeah, the Model 3 key fob, I would probably recommend buying it now. I don't know if Summon will work with it. That should work if they fix that all the issues with it. But yeah, now you can, just walk up and you don't have to worry about your phone being connected or, having battery or anything like that. Now, the question is, because the price is pretty high, right? I forget what it is. Isn't it like $200 or something?
Well, I thought the old one was like $300.
Yeah, let's see. $150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, I guess that's actually kind of the price for them. Which doesn't that just seem ridiculous? Like how it's like one dumb little circuit board and a battery. Like there's really not that much tech here. It's not like an OLED screen or something ridiculous like that. So are they sold out? Do we even know? Vehicle accessories Model 3. Nope, don't see it.
So they're probably relaunching it and it's not even out yet.
What?
Well,
there it is. Sold out again.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. I don't like that they don't let you put things on back order. You just have to happen to like catch it in the store,
Oh, right.
It always kind of bugged me. Can I share something speaking of Model 3 accessories? Yeah. This is not at all a sponsored thing, but I got the Jada or Jetta, however Jada probably. They made a really good wireless pad for a while, and what I liked about it is that you can put two phones on it vertically, or you can have it also doesn't have the divider between them. Like normally there's a little divider that keeps the phone kind of in place on the left or the right side of the mat. But if that divider goes all the way down to the bottom, you can't put your phone on there horizontally. And especially like when I would sit there at a supercharger, I'd want to like set it there. They actually made it so it has 3 charging pads and the notch is kind of cut out in between the two so you can lay your phone down horizontally. So that's nice. I thought that was cool. But the cooler thing that I was really excited about is this. It's just called a USB hub. I know it sounds really dumb. Have you seen this yet, Ben and Joe? So what I like about it is, when you plug in and have Sentry mode or the camera in your USB drive, it's really cluttery and stuff. Well, this just plugs in that hub into your little glove box. You don't even notice it's there. It cleans up all the wires, and then it hides the USB stick so that a thief would probably likely not even notice it.
Yeah, super cool.
So they'd open up the thing. It gives you 2 more USB-A, or 2 USB-As that you'd plug into the charging pad. Gives you 2 USB-Cs for other things. And then look at this. You can just plug in your thing, and then you close that door, and no one will know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think it's pretty slick.
So that's underneath what's on there now?
Yep. So you know where those 2 USB drives are?
Yeah. So it just like snaps into that.
Yep, you just plug it into the USB drives, and it's just a nice shape that holds itself in place.
Yeah.
And so you can even plug, if you want to put an SSD in there, you can do that. Flash drive, closed. It's really slick. And again, this is not at all sponsored. I bought it with my own money and just installed it this morning, and it looks really good. That's definitely what Tesla should have done in the factory, or had a way to hide the USB stick. Put it in the glove box or something.
Well, they didn't even. Yeah,
they didn't anticipate that coming. Yeah. But this is a good solution for those of us that worry about that and stuff.
I think that it's awesome that Tesla didn't build that in, because it makes a market for these kind of products. I really hope that they would, open it up, because it is cool. I mean, look at iPhones and things. How many accessory companies and wild things there are. And Tesla. I mean, I think to date has been kind of anti that stuff. Right, they've been kind of against that. They haven't really helped. It doesn't appear companies make things for their car, so
right.
I think it's cool. Yeah, that does look dope. Now, does it charge? Because I think one of the things I saw before, the first time I saw it, they reached out and I was like, yeah, I don't really do wireless charging. I'm not, wasn't really my thing. But I I saw Andrew Edwards, a buddy of mine, do a video on it, and you can double the charging speed with that thing, right? Is that when you put it horizontal, does it automatically do it, or is there a way to configure
I think
that?
just the one, because the USB ports, one of them is 15 watts and one of them 7.5 watts. And so I think both pads are quick charging pads. But let's see, can charge, no need to connect any cable. Simply drop one of your phones and the Jetta Wireless 2 pad will start charging wirelessly. The Tesla Model 3 wireless charger can charge between 7.5 watts when connected to the front USB ports or 15 watts connected to the 12-volt power socket.
Oh, so you can actually install. Oh, right. So it goes to the cigarette lighter thing.
I guess so. I guess that's an option. Didn't even realize that.
Yeah, because right. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think
there you go. So it can do fast charging if you want it.
Yeah, I think when I saw that, I was like, oh, awesome. Now it's not only wireless charging, which again, I don't really care for. It doesn't really work that well for me. But if I can get a faster charge, then it might be worth it, right?
Right.
So yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think it's going to be fun as more companies come out with these fun things for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of fun things that companies come out with.
No, come on. You got to learn segue math here.
Let's try it. Let's see what you got.
And, Tesla's actually going to make an entire market here because they're delivering so many cars these days.
Oh, I was
How many cars are they delivering?
Thanks for asking, Joe. Tesla just put out the Q3 vehicle production and delivery numbers. Kind of mind-blowing. They delivered 97,000 cars in Q3, produced 96,155. More importantly, they grew their order backlog, meaning that the number of people that have outstanding orders are new. They're organic. It's not like 3-year-old backlog. These are new orders, and so they basically can't make them fast enough.
Wow.
The interesting thing, and Joe, you've asked about it before. I mean, 97,000 cars delivered. I forget how many days there are in Q3, but it's either 91 or 92. So there are over 1,000 cars being delivered every single day. Kind of crazy. When you think about a company that a couple years ago people thought would never even make 100,000 cars. So, they're producing them. They're not producing them fast enough. Look at that, 96,000 cars. So that's over 1,000 cars a day produced. And they're delivering more than they're producing. So they're actually, the backlog is increasing, as I mentioned.
Wow.
Amazing. This is another record quarter. The previous quarter record was 95,200, I believe. So we're up a bit from there. I don't know if we're going to get much above this before China comes online, really. It's just not... The factory just literally cannot... I mean, currently, I don't think produce more cars than this.
Wasn't their goal 400,000 a year, which would basically be 100,000 every quarter?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember ever hearing that goal. The goal
I saw that somewhere.
The goal that Elon's talked about a lot is 1 million cars per year.
Okay. Well,
I remember a goal being 10,000. He said that maybe someday we could do 10,000 cars a week at Fremont if we totally do everything perfectly.
Yeah, that's so they're above 7,000 now, so they're getting close to that.
That's about it, isn't it? How many
10,000?
weeks are there in 3 months? There's only
12?
there's 120.
Yeah.
Or there's 12, so that'd be 120,000.
Yeah, so you're still a ways away from that. But
that's
getting close.
I mean, yeah.
Headed in the right direction. And I have some charts, as you could imagine. Oh, where are they? There you go. I make my own charts, of course. So here we have, I'll describe it for people listening, Tesla deliveries by quarter. So Q2, if you remember, was a massive jump. It was something like 133% above Q2 of last year. The labels aren't showing here, but I believe it's only like 16% up in Q3 from last year, because last year, of course, is when Model 3 volume production really started to take place in Q3, or I'm sorry, deliveries and all that. So I for Q4, I would expect that this number just, if at all, inches just slightly up from this number. However, they did say that that this was an article. I don't know how much of the details are confirmed, but basically Tesla is no longer going to be shipping cars to China starting mid-October, because they expect the China Gigafactory to come online and start making their own cars locally. So that's going to be
so crazy,
nuts. So in Q4, I mean, I guess like the U.S. production and delivery numbers, I would expect to be pretty much the same as what they were this quarter, maybe 1% or 2% up, if that. But then if China comes online and starts producing cars, we could see, an extra 5,000 to 10,000 in Q4, which would be, not much in the grand scheme of things. But the fact that factory came online like this year is just incredible. And then that goes into next year. I think we're going to see well over 500,000 cars produced overall. Possibly pushing, above 600,000, depending on how things go. Some of the interesting ways to look at this are deliveries by model. So on the graph here, what you're seeing are the Model S and X deliveries, and then the Model 3, which just from the, a couple months after it started, just completely dwarfed everything else. Now the Model 3 deliveries alone were 79,600 in Q3. So yet again, a record number for Model 3. I'm sorry, this isn't produced. These are deliveries, which is the important number. And then the growth baseline showing basically all the models in there, how many have been delivered since day one. The Model 3, of course, is nuts. It's over 355,000 now. Whereas the Model S is 287,000. So I think, was it last quarter or the quarter before we were talking about that? Like, very soon the Model 3 will be the most common.
Yeah, I remember that.
Tesla.
Yeah.
It's like, and then like 1 quarter later, it's like almost 100 plus 100,000.
Yeah.
It's officially the biggest one.
Yeah, by like a big margin. So just kind of cool to see the data laid out.
Maybe I can't see the bottom of this graph just from my screen, but I remember Elon talked about exponentials, in manufacturing. And at the beginning, how everyone is doubting, like, you guys will never deliver as many cars as you thought. And he's like, just trust me. Like, we're growing exponentially. We are figuring out and tweaking the system. And if we get to, 7,000 cars a week or 1,000 cars a day or whatever it was, like, you won't recognize this chart anymore, because the chart was kind of pity at the beginning, of how many, because people were, remember, it was just a little over a year ago, people were literally like typing in VIN numbers and keeping track of how many were coming out of the factory.
Right.
And it was sad, is this little teeny little deet, right? And if you now look at this chart, that's what we call exponentials, my friend. Like, look at that, just It's like an inverse roller coaster.
So the x-axis here is months since launch. So this is how you baseline these things, Yep. And so 3 months in, there were 1,700 Model 3s delivered. 6 months in, there were just under 10,000. 9 months in, there were 28,000, and then it's like 84,000.
Yeah,
right? So
and then just
28 to 84 to 150 to 200, like just
right.
Massive. So I mean, that's exactly right. And
I was reading that 7 of the last 8 quarters have been record numbers.
Yeah, that's right.
For them.
Yeah, and
that's
I think
so
that
crazy.
was that this Clean Technica has a chart here that that I had. Yeah, and it was just that Q1 of 2019 where they were doing the whole logistics hell for shipping cars to other countries
in Europe.
Yeah, and then I didn't even get into the European numbers and all that, but if you look at a lot of the reports out there, it's the same thing. Like Model 3 is just absolutely dominating in Europe right now, and not just compared to electric cars. Compared to electric cars, it's not even a competition, right? It's not even a race. It's only Tesla really in the electric car space. And then, but compared to like BMWs and stuff and other cars that people would just normally buy, So it's
I saw
crazy.
an article, or I saw a chart the other day where it showed, we've talked about this a few times, where even though the Model 3 technically isn't in the same class as like a 3 Series BMW because of interior volume, but that's obviously what people are comparing it to in the market is, Model 3 versus, here we go.
Yeah.
Is this Q3?
No, this was Q1.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't updated that yet, but this is
Please do, because everyone else declined. Like, all their sales declined by like 20-30%. And where's the headlines on that? Like, luxury cars are declining. And what's Tesla doing? Oh, Tesla's growing?
Yeah.
in a declining market. Interesting.
They're just dominating. Yeah. It's a weird thing. Like I understand the comparisons to the BMW 3 Series, the Mercedes C-Class, and maybe the Infinities and Acuras of the world, because that I think that comparison's fair, because that's what people are looking at to buy, right?
$40,000 luxury car.
Right. But technically, it's a mid-size sedan. Well, ironically, because of the cabin volume, puts it, and it's something, I forget what it is. It's like 100 cubic feet, and the Model 3 has like 102 cubic feet or something crazy like that.
Right.
So it puts it in the same class as like a Mercedes E-Class or a BMW 5 Series.
5 Series.
Cars that you would just kind of not generally think of. But technically, if you look at like luxury mid-size auto sales, that's where it falls into. And it's like, just, in one quarter, they delivered more than any other, any competitor did for the entire previous year. It's just wild.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So all good things. And, Elon certainly likes to talk about a lot of these things. So he said the 1 million cars and China factory and all that. But apparently Elon also likes to talk about other things and give, big, bold promises, and maybe even on shows that we watch on YouTube sometimes, like The Everyday Astronaut.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Does he? What do you...
I don't feel worthy to talk to you
about?
anymore, Tim, just so you know.
Shut up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll shut up. Yes.
I got the opportunity to speak this is the first time I've actually met him face to face, like where it wasn't like at a microphone at a press conference. And this was the first interaction, was Elon Musk complimenting my full flow stage combustion cycle shirt. And the funny thing is, off mic, like right here, the funniest thing is the thing he says after this, because I go into voiceover in the video, he goes, "So many channels." And then I like kind of just echo, because I'm like working on trying to get all of our audio running, because it's just two of us doing this, my camera guy and me, and I'm running audio and another camera, and he's running another camera and his camera. And I just repeat him, so many channels, and then I kind of wander off, and I realize later what he's talking about.
Your shirt?
He's talking about the shirt design, because it's just that basic, like really simple outline that I made. And it just has all these channels going everywhere. So channels of tubing. He's literally reverse engineering the diagram on my shirt, which I just think is the most Elon Musk thing you could do.
Was he correcting it? Like, was there something wrong, or he just?
I don't know if he's like correcting, but just like commenting on the design, which is just hilarious to me. Nice. So many channels. So that's how the whole thing started. And I'm sure you guys most of you out there that are listening to this have probably already seen the interview. I made the executive decision. We had 3 cameras set up, and this camera was an okay shot, but the problem is he started turning so much, because we kept pointing to Starship, that Elon turned, and basically we got like maybe his shoulder and most of the time his back out of this camera. And the other camera, because it's Boca Chica and everything fails, that camera failed, just full-blown just failed. Stuff just happens out there.
And this is the camera you're telling me that I should buy, right? That's the
no, this one right here. No, actually it wasn't. The camera that failed was the A6500, my Sony.
There you go.
The Z-Cam worked. Yeah, exactly.
Did you not know that Boca Chica is the Bermuda Triangle of Texas?
It is. It's something about the humidity, and like, I don't know, but stuff just fails. It is so bizarre. My live view unit.
It's great that they're launching rockets from there. Then I'm glad to hear that. No risk there.
Well, it's so weird, because I tried to do a live stream beforehand, and I set up my live view unit, which is that thing that takes like 4 cell phone modems, bonds them together, creates one cohesive signal, and then you plug an HDMI cable. And I just had this little action cam, little Sony action cam that I was gonna record myself with and have a decent little live stream going. But of course, the live view unit's just like, you don't have no connections. There's 4 modems plugged into it. 4 separate modems. And it's like, sorry, you don't have any of these, no devices connected. I'm like, so everything just fails out there. Sorry. So the executive decision for this video ended up being, you know what? I think the coolest thing I could do is just literally let you see the one take. The one cut. It's a little bit more raw. He wasn't thinking that he was going to be the only camera. He was assuming he was going to be one of the cameras. But the good thing is that luckily, because Michael could walk around, when Elon starts turning more and more and more, he could turn more and more with him. Otherwise, we would have had a great interview of our backs. So to those of you, there are people that complain like, it looks like it's filmed on a balloon. Like, this is called a Steadicam, my friends.
A balloon.
And you should be, yeah, because it's like going back and forth,
Oh, right.
It's not a tripod. You should be thanking Michael because he saved my butt because he was able to walk and turn and move with the shot, which...
God, people will complain about
Isn't that
anything.
insane?
You get an interview with Elon Musk and they're like, this looks like it's floating.
It's
The
smooth,
camera's
buttery...
moving in a thing.
It's smooth, buttery action.
I actually prefer that in a lot of ways. The tripod thing, it makes sense for certain shots, but I think it's kind of neat, and especially in a setting like that, because in my head, it kind of makes me feel like I'm there. Because if I'm standing there, I'm not just like dead still. Like I'm going to be moving around a little bit,
And that's what I like. I liked that. And to me, that gave it a really raw feel that was unique to something. I hadn't seen an interview like this with Elon. And I've literally watched, I have to admit, I've watched basically, I think, literally every interview I could ever find, just to kind of take notes about what I did and didn't like about when people interview him. And one of the biggest things as a listener that wants to hear Elon Musk talk, one of the biggest problems is that people interrupt him in those awkward pauses, because he'll pause on something for what is slightly beyond what most of us would normally do in conversation, because he's clearly churning through like a billion things in his head. And I think the normal thing to do is try to fill that gap, and I was like, you know what?
Especially
I'm
if
going to
you
let him
only
talk.
have...
What was that?
Oh, you broke up on my end.
Oh.
I was going to say, especially if you only have like 10 minutes to talk to him, it's like, I got to get this question, I got to get that question, and just boom, 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 and you don't give him the time to do the Elon processing.
Exactly. So that was my goal with this first one, especially. Like, I'm going to do less talking. I just want to hear him talk. That's what people aren't here to hear me say anything. They want to hear him talk. So I tried to give him a lot of room. I didn't get into the nitty gritty details, especially, thank God he came back around and we had to get the mic off him, because that is when it kind of opened up into the floodgates of like what I think my audience really wants to hear about Starship. But in my opinion, like, we'll hear about Starship on Twitter, like tomorrow. You know what I mean? Yeah. We can probably get all those answers anytime. But to really get an uncorked version of Elon where he's just casually talking about things like aerospikes. I could never get a quote of him on aerospikes on camera unless I asked him about it. And to me,
I did think that was an interesting question. I was like, really? He's going there with this? Okay.
But I wanted to hear him. I wanted to hear him spitball on it. I wanted to hear his engineering mind crank open and hear his decision process behind something that is something like aerospikes. And it was interesting.
So can I ask you, like, did you go into it with the whole, I'm working on this magnum opus aerospike video and it would be great to have a quote from Elon talking about aerospikes, and that's kind of why you went there? Or was it just because you've been spending so much time on it that it's fresh in your mind and you thought that would be an interesting conversation to have with him?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't even planning to totally release this interview at first, because I actually wanted it to be a total surprise in the aerospike video.
Oh, okay. Well,
and so I did, but I thought it'd be a quick question. I thought it'd be a little like, a quick back and forth. And it turned into like 5 full minutes of the thing. So it was an intentional thing that I thought it'd be a fun little like Easter egg. Yeah, in that sense. But I also kind of had it in the back of my head. I was just processing like what would be the best use of my time with him in the moment. And, I was like, what will get him talking for a while and open up his engineering? Because I know he likes those decisions. I know that he's actually, in my research, I realized that him and Tom Mueller went and watched an aerospike fire in the desert with, I think it was with Arca. I have to look it up. It's in my video. He went and watched them testing an aerospike. So I know he's thought about aerospikes, but like, when else am I going to get the opportunity to hear his engineering decisions on why he has or has not considered aerospikes?
Right.
And
very clearly he's spent a lot of time thinking about it, because once you got him talking, he was like, oh,
yeah,
just really got into it.
And he kept going back to like, if someone can show me, like he showed the scientific method in his answer of like, I want to be proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong. I want someone to show me that these are better, because if these are better, that is a gift, and that's cool. And I think that's the way he approached the full flow stage combustion cycle. Most people say it's not worth it. It's too complicated. Here's the reasons X, Y, and Z. But, in his head, he's like, well, are you wrong? Can I complete this engine, and will it increase my efficiency and do X, Y, and Z? And basically he's doing to what everyone else would say, that it's like, prove to me that it's wrong, or prove to me that I'm wrong and that it's too hard or whatever. And he did that with full flow. So it was kind of interesting to hear him still applying to that with the aerospike engine, which is interesting.
I really like.
Was it with you? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Well, I was gonna say I really liked how he got into the organizational management stuff.
Yeah.
About because that was something that, I mean, I've always kind of thought like, yeah, brilliant engineer, visionary, bad businessman, and he's even said that, right? I'm not making that up, but it was interesting to hear that he actually had, put his brain juice towards understanding how departments work, and how organizations are structured, and how that can play a role, a positive or negative, in how things like this get made. So I was really excited, and you did a fantastic job, like you said, letting him talk. I think I hate when interviewers do that. And they just interrupt because they just want to get the soundbite that they want for their thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just want to actually hear. So,
I can tell most interviewers literally have probably a pad of paper and literal questions that, like, they have 4 or 5 questions and they need to hit all 4 or 5 of them because their editor said so or whatever. I didn't have anything. I actually went into it literally unprepared because I wanted it to be an organic conversation, and it was a big risk because I could have totally just like frozen up and been like, so Starship, like, I don't know. I didn't know what it was going to be like. And actually my very first question, I'm not very proud of because it was kind of that basic question. But I did honestly just want to have a conversation. That was my whole goal, is just like, I know this guy pretty well. Like, I've watched a lot of stuff. I understand how he thinks. I want to hear him talk. I want to have a conversation with him and hopefully have fun where he wants to keep talking, Yeah. And
I feel like the internet has changed the way interviews are done. Maybe I shouldn't be giving the internet credit, but I feel like it's changing because, like you said, it's always been like, I have these sound bites that I need to get into a news clip,
right.
So I'm going to stick to these things, and there's not really much of a conversation going on. And now that there's we could credit Joe Rogan if you want, but the sort of long form, conversational, chatty thing that we're starting to see on the internet now, that's not so constrained by network news paradigms and whatnot. Like, I think you get a lot more interesting nuggets out of people, and a lot more cool stuff comes to the fore when you do it like that. And
it clicked me because I feel bad for CNN. Was the other one that got a video interview with him that night. So it was me and CNN, and CNN's
you and CNN.
That is insane to think about. That actually kind of hit me later on. I was like, I just like it really hadn't sunk in, to be honest, until like totally later, like even a day later. And I was like, I just realized it was only me and CNN that got video interview with him that night. But what hit me is that, and this is not at all CNN's fault, because the crew with CNN is great. Rachel Crane's awesome. She actually knows her stuff. But they have to appeal to their entire broad audience that is CNN. They can't appeal to the aerospace nerds or just the Elon Musk fans, right? So like, she had to get those sound bites, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and knock it out in 5 minutes, right? She didn't have the opportunity to let him nerd out on, and even you could tell, for me, what I think that did is it opened up Elon could let his guard down, because he has to give an answer that also appeals to CNN's audience.
Right.
He's probably considering that at some point. And that's why even when I started talking about aerospikes, he's like, wait, now your audience will know what aerospikes are?
I remember.
That's something that he's not used to. He's not used to being able to free flow about aerospike engines.
You're like, everyone but Ben. Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so I think that was a unique thing too, is he could kind of uncork a little bit, because it wasn't a normal like press interview in that sense,
Mm-hmm. And he has to like that more too. I mean, imagine how many times he gets interview requests, how many times he does interviews, and somebody asks him a question, they get their soundbite, and he wants to keep going, or he thinks maybe this is something we can dive in deeper, and they just move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Blah 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 blah. Heat shield. This. Okay. Cool. And when did you decide that Tesla this and that? He's like, wait, but there's like we could talk for an hour on that thing. Why are you moving on? Right. I'm sure it's frustrating from his end as well.
Yep. And
he almost stole your microphone.
He almost stole my microphone.
See, you should have left it with him because then it'd be a reason to call him back.
Ooh, the
Oh,
girlfriend.
Elon,
trick.
you have my microphone.
I could have had all these illegal recordings of him. Like, I could have heard his thoughts. Like, God, that Tim is so stupid. Who
He's in the
booked this one?
Yeah.
Do the whole naked gun thing. He goes to the bathroom. And it echoes throughout the conversation.
Oh, and just so you know, because of ethical reasons, journalistic ethical reasons, the video did come out a little later because I did want to get approval from legal and comms because he was off mic here, so I did want to make sure that it was okay, and so they made sure that things like phone privacy and things like that was well addressed.
His password's
Everything
all
in that
zeros,
sense,
right?
right? Exactly. So we just had to make sure that
Did
everything
we
was.
just see him enter his passcode into his phone? Is that?
Yeah.
I don't
something
know,
we just
actually. We shouldn't have said that because now people will probably dissect it.
It's all zeros. It's
Someone's
like Kanye,
pausing it right now.
Or the president.
So, okay, was it when he was talking to you or was it when he was answering questions earlier in the evening? He was talking about undesigning things?
Yes, that was during the presentation.
That was during the presentation. Oh, okay. Well, that struck a chord with me because, to break it down, he was basically talking about, like, a lot of people ask, how is the best way to design this? And he says the better thing to answer is the question of should this be designed in the first place, and a lot of people don't ask that. And so anyway, I thought that was really interesting because I came from working 12 years in a corporate world where there were all these people whose jobs were to polish turds, to take some terrible idea and somehow grind it into existence and make it work, and it's just so much wasted effort when most of those ideas just
Shouldn't have been
need to be
there in the first place.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, we kind of talked about that too. He said, like, what are the chances that a part is perfect? Like 0. Like literally, like there's no chance that a part is ever engineered perfectly. But the inverse, yeah. So, and he's like, but sometimes you just have to question, like, should this part even exist at all? And I had never really heard him talk too much about that. I feel like these are lessons he's learned specifically. I think Model 3 production probably taught him a lot of lessons about spinning gears on something that just really doesn't matter in the long run, that they're over engineering.
Flufferbot. Yeah.
Exactly. An engineering solution to a problem that really you just didn't need to engineer. You didn't need to spend 1 second on.
I remember when I first heard about the alien dreadnought, whatever, that they talked about with the Tesla factory a while ago. And just thinking, like, it kind of, I think the conclusion that they had, are they doing this just for the sake of doing it? Because it does seem a bit dumb, like, to actually get a robot to do everything a human can do is going to take a lot of robots.
Right.
And a lot of time and money, when it's like, why don't you just have the robots do the parts that are really, really hard for humans and take them a long time and kind of get your most bang for your buck?
Yeah.
But at some point, it's just not going to make economic sense to have a robot literally do everything that a human
and
can
diminishing
do.
returns for sure.
Yeah. So like, what's the point, right? At some level, yeah, like, just have a person do that. It's not a big deal, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah. So I think in the long run, like, I had the regrets about, I really wish I had asked more, gotten more into the hardware, like, right away, basically, like, start off like, all right, we got a lot to talk about, heat shields, booster, this and that, like, kind of like that. Cause I think he would have clicked into it, but at the same time, I wanted to ease into it, make sure I wasn't just blasting him with question after question after question, and invite it to be more of a conversation. That was my goal. And I think in general, it came out, I'm happy with it. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I think he enjoyed it. Well, I mean, he didn't stop talking, and it kept going. I gave him plenty of outs because I was only given like 5 minutes. So he kept, he kept talking. So at least I feel like he at least enjoyed it a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? You could nitpick until your dying day all the things that you wish you had said or things you wish you had brought up. But it was a great interview. He was clearly very engaged and didn't want to stop talking, and you got into some interesting stuff. I mean,
yeah,
you knocked it out of the park. So feel good about it.
Thank you. That means a lot from you guys.
Now,
thank you.
Can you recap what actually was announced at the thing? Because I got through most of it, then my son was like just screaming, "What? When is it going to launch? When is it going to launch?" And I'm like, "No, it's not." And so he just got like quickly disillusioned with this whole idea. Like, I sat him down to watch it, and he was like,
just
"Wait,
this
it's
guy
not
talking."
Yeah, he's like, "What the hell is this?"
Well, if it makes you feel better, my wife was the same way. No, I was in there watching it, and she was like sitting there, and she was like, "So are they gonna launch it, or?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"No, they're just like announcing it." And she was like, "Oh, I'm going
Yeah.
upstairs."
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, "No, they're all standing right around it, and they're gonna launch it any minute
Launch
now."
it.
And
So what were the highlights of the thing? The actual talk there.
Yeah, so I'm at nasaspaceflight.com, which of course, in my opinion, there's some of the absolute best at covering some of this stuff. So we learned, honestly, a lot of it was like an overview of a lot of things we learned on Twitter. But the two fin design is pretty nuts, and we do see the final. Hold on, I'm muted in that. That final landing. Okay, so this is the thing that blew my mind. This is what I had to ask questions about. And actually, what's hilarious, this is what I asked him in 2016 IAC. Basically, I said, like, tell me about this belly flop to tail down maneuver. 2016, I was just enthralled with this. And then he still is talking about that. And then here we come 3 years later, and I'm still like, Elon, tell me about this belly flop maneuver, because it's watch this. It's gonna go from, okay, the video above it is horizontal. It's literally falling just like a skydiver, straight down on its belly. Its engines are pointed to the horizon. Its engines aren't down. Its engines are at the horizon. Its nose is at the horizon. It looks like an airplane, but it's not moving in the right way. It's like an airplane literally falling straight out of the sky, as if it stopped and is just falling. And it does that until literally the 350 meters above the surface. It does this flip maneuver, or 500 meters probably before it starts to do this flip maneuver. And this flip maneuver is crazy.
And
Look
then
at that.
It overcorrects, right? It goes a little bit more.
Yep. Whoosh. It swings like a pendulum,
right,
because it
And
lights
that's
its
one of the
engines
things,
while it's still horizontal, but it uses the engines to perform that flip really quickly. But because it lights them while they're horizontal, it introduces a lot of horizontal velocity. So it has to overcorrect, swing the other way like that, and cancel out that horizontal velocity, and then come down to a landing. I personally am absolutely shocked the first time they're going to try to do this, they're going to do it that aggressively.
So
I thought
there's two
that was
things.
like,
How many of
eventually
these things are they
someday we'll
building?
figure this out. Yeah, exactly. There's no room for error here. This has to just absolutely work.
Water landing coming up. There were two notes about that. There are two thoughts I had. One is, why aren't they using Kerbal? Because the graphics would be way better. And then the second one was, okay, so this, again, infant level understanding here.
That's why you're here.
This is the upper stage coming back to land.
Correct.
Currently, that's not what happens.
Currently, the upper stage has only ever been recovered from a space shuttle.
Right. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Because
Yep.
at first, they didn't really talk about the booster in the talk until towards the end. And so for a second, I'm going, wait a minute. This thing isn't launching up and coming back on its own. That's the SSTO thing that, whatever. That's not what we're talking about, right? And then they showed that. And then it really started to dawn on me that this is something totally new and different.
Yes.
This is not like anything else we've really seen, right?
Right. So this, okay, let me break it down in a few ways. First off, it's going to be a little bit confusing because the first flights we see is just going to be the upper stage, the Starship portion, practicing these maneuvers. Because that is the biggest engineering challenge. And actually, I went back and listened. February 2018, Elon, I have to make a really big announcement. The Elon time curse might be over. He is in front of Elon time on this. 2018, he said, well, next year we'll probably have some hops of a prototype Starship vehicle, kind of practicing in Boca Chica. And then 2020, we'll hopefully do some high altitude atmosphere tests with a prototype vehicle. This is that high altitude test. They're looking at doing that in 2019.
Wow.
This might happen in 2019. He is ahead of schedule, and I laughed when he said 2020.
Wow.
I mean, if you want to talk about pace, this is unbelievable. This is utterly crazy, right? So So just to put this into perspective, yeah. So they're practicing the hardest part first, which is this atmospheric reentry, because this is something, like you said, they've never done before. The booster basically does what a Falcon 9 has done,
right?
For 40 times or whatever it is now. Like the booster, they have that figured out. Those physics are identical, basically, just a little bit bigger, a lot bigger.
Just 37 engines instead of 9.
But in the grand scheme of things, like it's way easier. It's pretty much a problem solved. It's a solved thing. They know how to do it.
It's a known thing, yeah.
It's a known thing. It's there's going to be some variables that change a little bit in mass and all this stuff, but the basic maneuvers, the basic performance is the exact same thing, And this upper stage is the thing that's going to be way harder because it has to handle. Not only does it have to do weird atmospheric things like this, but it also has to be able to survive reentry. So the upper stage really is as if the space shuttle if the space shuttle carried its external fuel tank, the big orange tank, carried that into orbit and reused all of it too. But don't forget, the external fuel tank was actually discarded on the space shuttle. That was the part of the space shuttle that was thrown away. Mm-hmm. So they're looking to, basically reuse all of it, Yeah, which is nuts. And so they have to practice this maneuver, and they're going to practice that maneuver first, and then just keep going with it. And eventually, and if the maneuver goes well, they're probably going to start trying to do orbital flights with it already, like next year.
So is it'll take off, and will it do the belly flop thing, or just like Star Hopper did, just hop from one pad to the other?
The first flight of this, the one that was at the presentation, is going to be the first one to fly. It'll be taking off from the same place the Starship or Star Hopper did, right? Uh-huh. Its first flight
will take... It's basically a glorified Star Hopper.
Yes.
That first
but
one.
Did you hear what its first flight's going to be?
20 kilometers, right?
20 kilometers.
It's pretty far up there.
That's 65,000 feet for those of you metrically impaired, basically.
Where's the Kármán line? Isn't it 500?
It's 100. It's 100 kilometers.
100, yeah.
Or 100.
So, yeah, so a fifth of the way up there. But, still think about that, though. They're going from hopping a little tiny one-engined water tank, that went 150 meters, barely, and going to a vehicle going up to 20 kilometers. And then not only does it have to land, it's not landing its normal way. It has to do this new maneuver that has never been attempted before,
So
ever.
it will do the belly flop from there.
Yes. That's the main thing. They don't care about the propulsive landing. They've got that figured out.
Yeah.
They care about the belly flop. And I need to point out here, I still have my doubts that they say they're going to do this at Boca Chica. I just cannot imagine. And I even asked Elon, like, is this taking off at, I really should have hammered, like, will this actually land right back at Boca Chica? Because I cannot imagine it's safe to test a new, landing procedure where it's aerodynamically flying, these big flaps that have never been done on a vehicle before. If that thing got out of control,
yeah.
South Padre Island's only 5 miles away. It would take a lot of out of controlledness to get it over to somewhere like that, but still, and it will have, of course, like a way to blow it up if it does start to, go off course like that. But I just can't imagine that. I just cannot imagine that they won't put the drone ship like 15 miles downrange and have that be the target, just so it's a little further away from population. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something the FAA requires on the first one.
Yeah. Now, is the design, so it's stainless steel, right? And we saw the Mark 1. Is the finished product going to be like smoother and painted and all that, or how is it? Because it definitely seems a little bit like beta at this point.
It is very much beta at this point.
It
because
just it didn't feel very SpaceX-like yet.
It's still just a fancy prototype. Like, don't forget that. This is still just as cheap, because look at this crazy maneuver. Do you want that? With a high chance of probability of failure, do you want that to be a shiny, perfect vehicle that's like bespoke, pristine, perfectly, it doesn't matter, because there's a non-0% chance it's just going to smack into the ground on its belly, So they want to do it as cheaply and easily and low cost and quick as possible. So some of the design things that Elon talked about is they're going to start going, right now they're using just basically strips of stainless steel, like square strips, and they curl it, and turn it into a band. And they're going to start buying just giant one and only have one seam on it. So right away, right there, we can get rid of most of the bumps and most of the welds just by only having a single seam. You know, and if they're big enough sheets, you only have to do a couple rings like that. Maybe they'll still continue with the rings like they're doing now, but it's going to be thinner. It's going to be a single seam vertically as opposed to, you know, tons of them. And then for now, when they're doing these first ones, they don't need the heat shields. They do not need the heat shields tiles because it's not going to orbit. It's falling back down. The stainless steel structure is plenty of heat shielding. Like that can handle that landing no problem. It's not going to experience, it won't even experience anything close to what the Falcon 9 booster experiences. So no heat shield, I'm guessing, for the first couple flights of Mark 1 and Mark 2 and stuff like that. But when they do go orbital, hopefully by then it will be a little cleaner looking, you know, like Mark 3, Mark 4 will be a little cleaner looking. And once it does go orbital, it will have the ceramic tiles on the belly of it. So that's cool. You know, something that we kind of, he did teach us a little bit more about. But the thing is, one of the biggest reasons for stainless steel is you don't need to coat the leeward side, the way, you know, the side that's against the wind. It can be stainless steel. Look at the space shuttle, which was aluminum. It still had to be covered in those thermal blankets. So it still needed another layer of thermal protection, even on the side that wasn't seeing any of the reentry, you know, like direct reentry, air, you know, wind stream, airstream. So that's one of the advantages of stainless steel. The backside can just be what it is, just, you know, just bare, and it will have no problem with thermal management there. The front side will have small, like mostly uniform shaped ceramic tiles, basically, that are directly bolted onto the belly of the ship. Yeah, and I think he said that we're going to start seeing like Mark 3 be built at Boca Chica, like starting next month.
Next month, yeah.
And probably done really soon, seeing how quickly they're welding these things together and how big their workforce is and how much equipment they have out there. Yeah, I absolutely believe it. And Mark 4 soon after that in Coco. Yeah, it was just nuts. And then soon they'll start working on a super heavy booster. I think he said after Mark 4. I made a bunch of notes. Why aren't I pulling up these notes? But
here's my question.
Yeah.
He had said something about like you know, the first one going up in October, Mark 3 being the first one that's orbital, and possibly next year we'll have the first crewed flights in this.
Right.
Are you as skeptical as I am?
100%.
Okay, thank you. Because he said that, and I was like, okay, we still haven't gotten the Crew Dragon up there yet, and how long we've been working. I say
exactly.
How long have they been working on that? And it's not necessarily them. It's regulatory. It's NASA. It's
right.
You know,
they had that setback, right? That
and that
anomaly
setback, yeah.
thing, so
yeah. But that's exactly, and actually, oopsies. To the point of Elon saying like the best system is a system that isn't there. That kind of proves the point of the abort system with Dragon. You know, Dragon failed practicing in all of these extra complications for an abort system. And this is, again, a topic I will talk about in an upcoming video. I think I'm going to finish my aerospike video. And then the next one I'm going to do, spoiler, I guess, for the end of the show. Whoops. But then one of the next ones I'm going to work on is, does Starship, you know, why won't Starship have an abort system? Should it? And it's basically, he answered it. The best system is no system, you know? Like, look at all the extra parts, extra problems, extra points of failure, extra engineering, extra software validation that you have to do in order to make something like an abort system possible. You know? And yeah, you're exactly right, Joe, that it's part of me is just like, there's no way you'll get people up on that. You haven't got people up on Dragon, which you've been working on for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. I also have to wonder, this whole belly flop maneuver where they do that whole thing, how many G's would that impart on a person?
Well, and actually,
that seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, M. Helda in our Discord channel has that exact question, and I think if you're up in the cabin, because the tail is mostly what will fling down, I don't think you'll experience a crazy amount of G's. But then again, he did say after, you know, one of the things when I asked him about that maneuver, he did say eventually they won't need to do the Raptor firing, and they'll just have powerful enough hot gas thrusters instead of cold gas thrusters. That will perform that maneuver quickly. And you're up at the top, so if they swing the bottom down around you, you won't experience as much G's. Because if you notice, like, the maneuver, they swing pretty heavily. The nose doesn't really move as much as the bottom. It still moves a lot. But
you're also going from free falling to zero in what, 300 meters?
But don't forget, free falling speed, because it's belly flopping, its terminal velocity might be pretty low. It might be below of human falling. And a human rips its parachute, you rip your parachute and decelerate down to zero in a relatively short period of time too, and I'm sure they will be able to hone that algorithm in if there's people on it to keep it within, maybe peak G of a quick 5 Gs for a second or something, but then keep the rest of it under 3 or something.
I gotta say, man, I really look forward to whenever it is they launch later this month, and just seeing it go up and seeing this belly flop and holding my breath to see if it works. Like, there's just... It doesn't get more cowboy than that,
That's exactly right. It is the Texas way. It's the SpaceX way.
That's how we drive too, actually. It's crazy.
But I should say, the other parts, he talked about how he really is just drilling in the point that he's looking forward. The company's looking forward. They're extrapolating what they can do right now with Falcon 9, because no one really 4 years ago thought Falcon 9 would ever be reusable. They thought, okay, maybe they'll catch one and land one that's cute. Good for you guys. And they've heard him forever. Every single year, every speech, everything he says, we're trying to make it like an airplane. If you had to throw away an airplane, you wouldn't be able to fly. Every time the guy gets on a mic, he says that, just like Bernie Sanders says, the 1%, like that's Elon's thing, is like the airplane, and it's because they're looking at it as like, we're designing it in a way that it literally lands. You can literally refuel it and refly it. And the booster could do that 10 to 20 times a day. The spaceship could technically do it 3 or 4 times a day.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because I think I've asked you that about that before. The actual turnaround time is still pretty, today it's really long, like a month or something, right?
Yeah, like over a month even is the quickest turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, but do you really need it to be that short? I mean, I guess I wonder what the market is for people going on this thing. Is a week okay? I mean, it seems like it's probably okay if you have 3 of these things. I don't know,
That's really the main thing, is that, well, right now SpaceX is ahead of their customers. They're waiting on their customers. And I think now that they're going to be their own customer with Starlink, and they're only going to be waiting and rolling out their own factory, which we know now that Elon's pretty into making things mass produced and able to roll out a pretty fast production rate, there's a good chance we'll finally see that that record get destroyed from a month to maybe they'll do something nutty. Like, oh, we have a whole, another set of Starlink satellites ready to go, and they'll fly it in 72 hours. Mm-hmm. That same booster. We might see that rapid turnaround for themselves.
That would make sense, right? Yeah. So the Star ship, including all the stuff, booster, whatever, all that, the main use case is people or all of the above? Cargo, whatever, right? It's just a massive thing that can launch anything, because it seems like if you're putting people on it, the design would have to be dramatically different than putting satellites in it, right?
Yep, and that's the thing. They will basically have 3 different versions. They'll have a cargo version where the mouth opens up like an alligator. They'll have a tanker version that has nothing. The payload will just be 150 tons of propellant for another vehicle. And the crew version, which has just that huge, 747 size cabin that's just for people.
And as long as Lindsey Sterling's there playing violin, floating around, I'm in.
This was the weekend for me, guys, where, and I said this at the end of the interview too, the first off the mic thing, I go, this is just nuts, and I told him 2016 at IEC, it was kind of awkward because it seemed just, dude, come on.
Was that the Australian one?
That was Guadalajara, Mexico. It was the first time they introduced the interplanetary transportation system, and it was honestly a little bit yeah, okay, cute guys. This is, another PowerPoint, another here's our vision for Mars and all this stuff. And it You know, you kind of believe it a little bit because SpaceX had done some crazy things, but you're just like, really? Come on, be realistic here. And driving up, and again, remember, guys, I've been out to Boca Chica now 4 or 5 times or whatever. Driving up, seeing Starship in person, standing underneath it, it clicked. And I'm like, they are doing it. Like, this is happening. This is real. And the potential that they're talking about is not far-fetched. It is well within the realm of physics, well within the realm of engineering, and achievable. And it will happen. It's inevitable. There might be some bumps along the way, but they're going to figure it out. And this is just the beginning. And finally, so when he's doing this presentation, I'm sitting here like, I actually had a, like, and again, I'm a pretty big supporter. I think you guys know this. I think you guys are big supporters. But you always have like that, like, you know, we have rose tinted glasses, but even some things he says, you're like, okay, well, that's sure someday. But this whole presentation, he's talking, and I'm like, yeah, of course. Like the Dear Moon thing. Last year, Dear Moon, I'm like, yeah, 2023 or 2024, whatever. He's saying, that's cute.
Yeah.
5 years. And I'm sitting there like, this might happen in 2023, by 2023.
I still feel that way a little bit about the whole self-driving, like completely fully autonomous. I'm like, Joe,
right.
Look at Joe's car there. I'm not quite sure.
That's a great example.
But it's certainly a lot faster than I even
any
thought.
other program.
Yeah, obviously.
And it's physics driven. That's all. That's the whole thing. Is like the reason this program has done this, and you keep seeing changes all the time,
right?
Is because they're not going into the sunk cost fallacy. They're literally are saying like, okay, we had this idea, we tried it, doesn't work. Next, we had this idea, we think it's not the right idea. Next, like they're applying the scientific method to every single step. Like, is this the right answer? Everyone go out and check it. Everyone check my work. Okay, you disagree. Okay, what's next? Let's try the next one. And so all of a sudden we go from transpirational cooling to not transpirational, you know, to heat shields again. Like, because they're testing it all and they're letting physics really drive the design instead of trying to figure it all out beforehand. Yeah. And then developing a really expensive set of manufacturing, a really expensive set of tooling, a really expensive set of engineering time to figure it all out on paper, and then hope that the product that you came up with is ready to go when it's all done. Instead, they're just like testing every step of the way, and by the time and they'll just iterate on that.
Yeah.
Because they didn't build a fancy factory out there. They're building in a field. They didn't, you know, like everything's just like, okay, if that doesn't work, we'll change it.
It might be SpaceX and Tesla, for that matter's biggest advantage is their organizational structure.
Yep.
That iterative development cycle instead of what in business we'd call the waterfall development structure, which is the older, like, hey, we design everything first and then we start building. But guess what? By the time you're done building, the world has shifted, and all of a sudden that thing you built is no longer the thing you should have built. So, you know, you end up with things that are super expensive and don't pan out as a result. And yeah, it sounds like they figured that out, that the more iterative development is the right way to go.
Yeah. It's just really cool to see it in person, you know, see it play out like that.
Now,
and they're doing it so publicly is what gets me.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Super cool.
We're seeing it literally out in the open. Like we're seeing it in a field happening in person. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a gift. You don't normally get to see this sort of design evolution and, you know, researching and stuff.
It's bizarre. It's truly pretty bizarre. Yeah. I was going to tell you guys another story, but I don't remember what it was now. But
well, I got
classic.
one because I did go see Ad Astra.
Oh,
with the Bradley Pitts, and
ooh, yeah,
with the Brad Pitt,
with the Brad Pitt, and it was. I think Tim, you slightly ruined it for me. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Have you guys seen it at all?
No. How did I ruin a movie I haven't seen?
Well, because the whole physics thing, the whole rocket thing. I'm half the time I'm like, no, that's not. It doesn't do that. No. Guys.
Really?
Well, I mean, half of it's like just the astrophysics side of it, and then half of it's the space side of it. I think Joe, you had a hand in ruining it for me as well. Like,
you're welcome.
The whole video about Mars, how difficult this would be on our body, and these guys they go. So story: Brad Pitt's looking for his dad. It's really not a space movie. I'll just spoil it for all you guys right now. It's not really like The Martian, where it was really sciencey and really great, and really
Is it more like
detailed.
Interstellar?
Yeah, right.
Where Interstellar is more kind of about the story than it is about the space aspect.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah, like
I loved it.
there's spacey things, and that's like what's happening. But really,
It takes
that was
place
a
in
story about
space.
him and his daughter, right?
Right.
This is the same thing. It's like there's a spacey type thing, but it's really about him and his father. But yeah, part of it is like these long distance space travel things, and I'm going, no, you would not survive. You would not survive 30 years in deep space on a. No, like you would be so dead, and even if you weren't dead, your body would be so mush by then, you know. And then, like they go to the moon, and then this is in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling it. There's like pirates on the moon that are shooting at you, and you're like, what? What?
Space pirates?
Yes, legit space pirates. And going, huh?
Did they get on the ship and the guy said, "I'm the captain now"?
Basically, yeah.
Or arg.
And then so then they make it to Mars, and the whole time one of the biggest things that got me was the gravity. Like these guys are just walking around like normal, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you don't just walk around like normal on Mars or on the moon.
Of course,
Right?
right.
And there's like a scene where they're running or something. I'm like, you're not running. Like fine, you can run, but it does not look like normal running.
More like you take one step and fly like 8 feet before your
Exactly.
feet hit the ground again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see because I think Andy Weir has a Artemis movie coming out, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. And I heard that or I think Joe, you'd maybe told us like a while ago that like they were working on making it so like the physics were the hard part of it.
Yeah. So the people who have been signed on, I got really excited when I heard this. The same people who did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it.
Yeah?
It's so much better than you think it's
Spider-Man.
going to be.
Is that the animated one?
Yeah, it's the animated one. So it's Lord and Miller, I think is their names. I don't know their first names. But anyway, so they've been signed to do Artemis, and apparently like one of the reasons that it's kind of being delayed and taking a while is they really want to nail 1/6 gravity.
Yeah, right.
Like they want it to be legit all the way through. Like every time somebody takes a step in any direction, every time somebody flings a pin up or something, it's got to be. And I mean, and doing that in live action, that's got to be a huge challenge. Like just figuring out exactly how to do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, exactly. They want to nail that different reality there.
Yeah,
I can't imagine how hard that would be.
There were so many times in that movie where I was just like, okay, come on. Okay.
Well, I need to go see it. I haven't seen it.
I
really know almost nothing about it.
It was a great. You'll appreciate it as a filmmaker. It's a very cinematic, wonderful movie in that sense. It reminds me sort of an epic. An epic is like a genre of films. It's kind of like that. Like there's space stuff, but then you get into some details, and then you just kind of move on because it's like this grand journey that he's going on. So, yeah, I mean, I would go watch it, but definitely like half the time I'm just going, guys, no. I mean, you got Brad Pitt here. Like you certainly have the budget to make this work, right?
You have some freedom here because you have Brad Pitt. Some excuse. Are epics like? Have you guys ever seen World's Fastest Indian with Anthony
Hopkins.
Who's Have you guys seen that movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I remember
the
it.
motorcycle.
The motorcycle breaking the land speed record, and he goes on this big journey to get to there. Like, is that considered an epic kind of? Where it's like he leaves his home, he goes on this thing. There's all these little like characters that pop up in the way. And he goes on this like big crazy adventure.
All these archetypes.
Yeah, exactly. To reach like this big end goal. That's just kind of. I'm trying to think of like a modern epic.
Gladiator.
To put into perspective. Gladiator. Okay.
Troy.
So you're thinking more like spectacle.
Okay, probably. Yeah, I'm trying to. Troy is another epic.
300. Yeah, a lot of the things that have these
Okay.
like massive. I'm reading slightly of the official definition
Yeah.
here. Like these large scale sweeping scope of things, like in like exactly like Ad Astra. It's like this massively like 50-year in the making story, and they like can't go into all the details, and it's like whoa, it's kind of mind blowing. It's really interesting that they have, Joe. You'll get a kick out of this. They have a space telescope. Or wait, Is that the right thing? It's like ground based. It's touching Earth, but it goes so high that they have to wear spacesuits to go outside. Now,
Cool.
I don't think it is above.
Telescope or elevator?
No, it's like a research facility. So telescope as a radio telescope is what it
Yep.
is. So yes,
But they have it like on like a space elevator, basically.
right. Yeah. So they
Well,
have,
now you spoiled the movie.
huh?
Now you spoiled the movie. That's all I was looking forward to.
No, it's kind of weird though, like the way they shot it. And again, from the filmmaker aspect, you'll probably look at it and go, huh? Because it's Bradley Pitts puts on his spacesuit and he puts on his helmet.
Bradley Pitts.
And he goes outside and you're like, wait, is he in space? Like you can't really tell if the thing is connected to the ground until way later. So it's kind of, I thought that was, I don't know if there was an intentional choice or if they kind of just didn't think people would notice. But certainly me and Jenny are sitting there going, are they in space? Are they floating around? Why is there gravity? Are they like, there were all these like weird, because it's like they're in space, but literally they're just walking around and people are just sitting there eating lunch.
Which would be true if you put something 100 kilometers up and you're technically in space and it's just sitting there stationary to Earth, you'd have the same gravity we do here, maybe like 1% less gravity.
Right. Yeah.
Because the thing that makes you, it's the change of velocity that you feel.
Yeah.
So when you're, it's acceleration. So yeah.
So as long as you're traveling at the same 17,500 miles per hour or whatever, you'd still feel normal gravity, right?
Basically, and the idea is if it, whatever it's suspended by, it's in order for something to stay right there, like on the edge of space, but like tethered to our Earth, something would have to be like kind of pulling up on it, or like anti-gravity or something that is resisting Earth's gravity, but that you're still going to be affected by Earth's gravity pulling you down. And if the platform is pushing you up to keep you there and not fall back to Earth, you're going to feel just like you're here on Earth. That's the same. Yeah, gravity doesn't just turn off because you go up.
Right. It was just a weird scene how it was like he is in a spacesuit going out in space, but everyone else is just hanging out like, it's lunchtime. It was like a little bit
interesting.
The filmmaker probably had a reason for doing that, but it was definitely lost on us. Of like, wait, what's happening? Yeah, cool movie.
I'm excited to see that though.
Yeah,
it looks pretty.
That's it.
Yeah. So speaking of flying away from whether or not they're going to launch at Boca Chica that we did like an hour and a half ago, remember that whole thing we talked about? Now I want to do this on purpose because I know we've talked about this probably a year ago or so, but I want to see what your guys' thoughts are now, because this is very relevant with Starship. This episode of Why Don't They Just comes from Empty Dice at empty_dice on Twitter. The question was wondering, why don't they just test Starship by flying between Boca Chica and Kennedy Space Center? Maybe suborbital flights meeting with Super Heavy at the Cape, then to orbit or beyond. So, why don't they, especially like maybe after this like 20 kilometer, test, why is the next test going from Boca Chica and landing at Kennedy Space Center? And real quick side note, Joe, I had to laugh. I don't think I had read your Twitter profile before. That cracks me up. I need to read this out loud. Joe's profile. My mom told you people not to laugh because it would just encourage me. So really, all this is your fault. That's so good.
That
Sorry.
actually happened in elementary school because my mom was a teacher. And she actually came into the class that I was in and told all the kids not to laugh at me.
You'll just encourage him.
Oh man,
that's funny. Okay, so why don't they do that? Why don't they do one of the tests, maybe one of the final tests or whatever of a vehicle, and get it, take it from Boca Chica, fly it over to Kennedy Space Center, and then mount it up to a Super Heavy booster?
Because people, it would have to leave. It would have to go into Leo and like fly around the Earth one time to do that, right? Otherwise, it
can go straight east and be very suborbital.
But you're flying over land, right? Because you have to fly over Florida to get that.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you actually left, like if you went into space and then then it doesn't matter if you're over land because you're now in space, and then came back. That seems like you could do it. But I said the same thing about why don't they just launch Instead of like
From
sending the
Vandenberg.
Falcon 9s from LA to whatever, just like fly it over there. It seems like it'd be quicker. Yeah. It costs
Yeah.
maybe and dangerous.
Joe, what do you think?
I mean, I just kind of see a lot of ways that could go wrong. But when you say test Starship, I think it depends on where they are in the testing. I mean, like in where we are right now, God no. Don't get them anywhere near anybody. But like a year or two from now, maybe once we've done an orbital thing or so, I mean, that's an interesting question. Could they launch the upper stage of the Starship, not the Super Heavy, but the Starship from the ground in one part of the same hemisphere or whatever, and do a suborbital and land somewhere else? I mean, they were talking about the point-to-point on Earth stuff, but even that was with the Super Heavy, wasn't it?
No longer. They would do point-to-point suborbital now with just Starship.
Right. Well, I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, it has that capability, right?
Someday.
I mean, maybe someday. Not now.
Yeah, I think you guys are both exactly right. That the key word that's a bad outlier in this is test. You do not
Right.
test.
Yeah.
Someday when Starship is super reliable and we have the data on it to be as reliable as an airplane or whatever, sure, it can fly. It can do that route. But when they're planning, and Ben, you kind of touched on something. Like, well, once it's in space, it's really about its trajectory. Because remember, it takes say you even just go on a suborbital hop, like say the Falcon 9 booster, how you see it arc up and go over and it lands 1,000 kilometers downrange or whatever. It takes a ton of energy to make it not do that. Like, you can't just make it all of a sudden fall short 100 kilometers or make it go 100 kilometers downrange. It takes a ton of energy to move that thing off of that path. So say that path goes directly over Florida and something happens during the ascent where all of a sudden it's going to blow, it blows up. There's a portion where if you aborted and triggered to terminate the vehicle, that you have to have it fly directly over land, where that arc is going to cross over Florida until it goes beyond Florida even, so that when it does its aero braking, it slows down and lands in Florida, because they always have to overshoot it. You know what I mean? So when you get into orbit even, you have to make sure you go all the way into orbit, you get to orbital velocity without flying over populated areas. So if they were to go to orbit from Boca Chica, which they can do, there's a very narrow channel that they can follow that goes right between all these islands.
Yeah.
That they can actually fly to get to orbit from Boca Chica. You're right, Ben. Then they could, do all the stuff, use Super Heavy booster. But and then like when they would land, what they would do is that they slow it down and they actually come up long of Kennedy Space Center or of Boca Chica, wherever they're landing. They land long of their target and rely on that braking to get them to their target. So that way, if something goes wrong, you end up falling apart over, in the ocean. And it requires a proper braking and reentry sequence in order to land back at your intended target, so that you're never really putting Orlando in danger. You're never like slowing down and then relying on a system to get you out to the launch pad. It's the opposite. It's like you're long and then you need to slow down. But the real question is here, almost never would you actually want this unless you're trying to ship it, unless you're literally trying to ship that Starship over to Florida. Like, Boca Chica is a launch pad. Like, why would you
just launch from there?
Yeah, just launch from whatever you're trying to do. Like, just do it there. Like, people all the time would be like, can they launch a Falcon 9 and land the first stage in Kennedy Space Center? Well, what good's that going to do? Like, what does that save you? If, say, you wanted to bring it back to Boca Chica, you're going to ship it again.
Yeah, put it back in the Rocky Garden or something.
Yeah, my favorite one is when people say, like, why don't they land a Falcon 9 in Africa or in, on an island, like in Jamaica or something, right? Like, well, wait, now you have to pick it back up, lay it down on a ship, ship it again, still, take it back to your launch pad, do all the stuff that you'd have to do, as opposed to just landing it on the ship. That's like the easiest thing,
Well, it does, like, along that line, it would make sense if, say, SpaceX had, like, I don't know, let's fast forward 20 years here, and these suborbital flights are normal, LA to Beijing or whatever. It would make sense, and I imagine this has to be a part of their design at some point, just to have these stations all over the world where we're going to land, but that place we land has fuel and is like another launch pad, right? So
yes,
just like an airport, you can't just land anywhere. I mean, maybe you can, but you should land where you can also refuel and fly back. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Well, didn't that happen? There's an emergency landing just a little bit ago. Or no, maybe I read about it where a major airliner landed on a go-kart runway in Illinois. My patrons were telling me about this in Discord once. We were talking about emergency landing procedures or something. Someone's like, well, you know about the go-kart. I think it was in Iowa too, or Illinois. And the problem is, how do you get it off of there? Of course, the pilot did an amazing job because they saved everyone's lives by finding a little go-kart track and was able to put it down and not kill everybody. That's obviously, I'm not being how dare you put it on a go. But are you finding the story here?
Well, this one happened in San Diego not too long ago.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, that's literally right by my studio.
Oh my gosh.
And they didn't even clear the...
This is the road that I take to get into the studio here.
Dude.
Yeah.
And that was, they had an engine out, right?
I don't remember what it was, but you know that this
Well, and he's also in the left lane. That's the fast lane, so good for him.
I bet those cars pooped their pants.
Well, and there was another instance like this that happened where it actually looks like the guy's accelerating. He's like, go get it on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is actually how highways are designed. You guys know about that? That for every every 100 miles or something, there has to be a 2-mile stretch of straight road.
Yep.
So a plane can land on it.
I didn't know that.
It was mostly, wasn't that for World War II times with old warplanes and stuff?
Yeah, I forget.
But the whole the interstate highway system was developed as a defensive. It was a Defense Department thing.
Right.
Unless I'm mistaken, I'm sure somebody's screaming at me in the comments right now.
Well, here, let me share this. This was the person crashing out of the 767 on a racetrack on Family Day. I'm trying to figure out Air Canada 143. Pretty crazy. Isn't that nuts?
Dude.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a stuff I learned, or what is it?
This is wearethemighty.com. Sure.
That video down below.
Oh. I don't know.
So I'm looking on a
today
website
I
here.
found
Apparently
out.
that's a myth.
What I learned today or something.
What was a myth?
1 in 5 miles of interstate system is straight, so airplanes can land in emergencies. Apparently this is a myth.
Good thing we looked it up so we weren't spreading that same...
Fake news, bro.
Go
Fake
Snopes.
news. That was Department of Transportation, so...
That's interesting.
That's like, I don't know if you guys, it's a bit of a tangent, but the IRS actually lists things that you cannot use as reasons to not pay taxes. There was a story about a guy.
It's almost like they've heard a lot of excuses.
Yeah, exactly. There was a story from a guy that said something that I am a resident of the state of California or Texas or Iowa. I am not a federal resident. Therefore, you as a federal agency have no right to tax me.
Oh my god!
Was his name Ron Swanson?
Yeah. No, he went on for, I think it was 15 years without paying taxes, and then finally the IRS was like, "Hey, about that, yeah, we're just gonna forget you said that. Just give us the money." And so there's a whole list now on the IRS website of these wild, dumb reasons people have come up with over the years.
That's funny. That makes sense. Oh man. So speaking of dumb reasons to come up with, what are you guys coming up with for some videos this week?
That's one way to put it.
That's
Do
a
I
good
start?
one. Yeah, Joe, let's hear it.
Well, I'm excited.
Ooh.
Next week is the week that I reveal the big thing that I've been working on. That was the reason that I went to San Jose after our shindig in California. It's coming up. I'm working on it all week, and I'm still teasing.
Can you tease? Can I get one bit of information? How long will this video be?
Okay. All right. So here's what I will reveal.
Ooh.
It's 2 videos.
Oh.
There's a regular Monday video that features clips of an interview that I did in San Jose with somebody.
Okay.
And then the following day I'm going to release the full. It's like an hour and a half
Whoa.
interview that I did.
Dude, That's awesome.
And I'll give this. It's the video is about. It's a follow up to the video that actually you referenced it earlier about the Mars. We can't survive going to Mars video. This one's going to be called Surviving Mars, and it talks about all the things that are being worked on and the different solutions to get around the stuff that I talked about in the last video. And I wanted to do an interview with somebody who really had spent a lot of time thinking about traveling to and living on Mars.
And San Jose is next to Fremont, right?
Don't do that.
Did you also interview Elon Musk?
Don't do that to people. I will say it was not Elon.
Okay.
That's still yours, Tim. But it was somebody I was really excited to talk about, and it was really great. And watching the interview, I know that I'm like in it, and I'm probably reminiscing and stuff. But like as I was editing it and just kind of like watching it, I just realized I just had a smile on my face the whole time. I think it turned out pretty well, and I'm excited to put it out there.
That's
awesome.
so great. I'm really excited for that one.
Me too.
Yeah.
Tim, you still got the aerospike coming? Sounds like you're more motivated. You said Starhopper was going to be the through line here for the next month, though. So, or
I think I Starship myself up. I think I Starship my pants. I think I'm okay. Delaying on some of that and getting through this aerospike video. And by the way, that was kind of part of the plan. I was not intentionally delaying. I was waiting for two things. You guys know the footage from Aerojet Rocketdyne, and if I had a chance to ask Elon Musk about aerospikes, I was going to wait for that. And believe it or not, the Aerojet Rocketdyne footage, I got some new footage. Not exactly the exact footage that I want, but I got some new footage that's really good and way better quality than what I was finding on YouTube.
Sweet.
So worst goes to worst, I use that, and I'm really excited for that. So I'm going to start working on that probably after we wrap up here today and tomorrow and this weekend and see if I can't have it out maybe end of next week-ish. Ooh. Maybe. At least getting close. Maybe by the time we talk next week, it'll be closer. What about you, Ben?
We're going to be talking about Tim time from now on. Elon time.
Yeah. When it's done.
What if I did that? I'm like, I really want to do a video on version 10, but I need Elon to be in it, so I'm going to wait.
Hey, can I just say something really quick before Ben you take off or before you do your thing? So, Tim, we're buds. We give you a hard time. We give you some hell about how long you're taking, and then I see people on like Twitter and social media doing the same thing, and sometimes I see people say like, "Well, I saw Joe was busting your chops about it," and I'm like,
right.
But we're friends.
That doesn't
right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the other
please
thing,
don't do that, guys.
Well, the other thing that's important to remember, and I have to remind myself this, and I think we do too, us internet people, is that when we're talking face to face, we can tell the tone, we understand the teasing, we totally get like the friendship aspect of it, and some people still don't even pick up on that. Like we tease each other all the time. It's because we're friends. That's a normal thing to do. Yeah. But if someone is teasing and same tone, same fun-loving, just jabbing for fun, might come off totally wrong on Twitter or a comment section.
And it will blend in with all the trolls.
And it'll blend in with all the actual negativity.
Yeah, we don't know the difference just from reading the comments and the stuff on
So just be careful for those of you that do, because sometimes, after reading 40 negative comments and you read someone saying, well, where's the aerospike video? And even if it has a /S, it's still like, it's still just sort of gets blended in and put in that same category. Yeah.
And it does the opposite of encouraging you.
Right.
It makes you like,
makes you kind of panic and go, I gotta get this done.
I'll take it a step further and say you were right, Tim.
Yes. And see, and speaking of jabbing our friends, too, because I totally jabbed you in this comment.
This picture of a Model Y, this looks exactly like my car, the Model X I have. Now, I think it's because I have a Model X that's chrome deleted and has this extra like wing on the back. I mean, this is like practically
and a little body kit on the tail.
Yeah, it's practically identical. So you were right.
Read my comment. Speaking of friends jabbing at each other.
Come on.
Yours said, "Told you." It's just as tall. Now, it is shorter than the Model X. I'll say that. It's definitely shorter.
Well, no, I said it's because you exclaimed, no, it's just a tall 3. Trust me, I saw it in person. Yeah. It's literally just a tall 3. And I was like, no, it looks just like an X and a 3 made a baby. And you're like, nope, just a tall 3.
Well, and you know, but there is some the X kind of has. If you look at the absolute back of a Model X, it actually has a lot of design styling from the Model 3. Like they look very similar already. Whereas the Model S is a much different, like rounded kind of shape to it. So yeah, so they're already but you're right. Like this shot here was a pretty good one, and it looks like when I saw that, I'm like, they took a picture of me. Like was I driving by, and then I'm like, oh, the tail light's different, but otherwise
it does look
literally
just like your X. Yeah. It's surprising. Or maybe it's just because it's kind of a low angle too. You know, that was taken with Sentry mode. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
what are you working on though?
So I'm working on. We are working on having a baby. And so hopefully that'll happen within a week or so.
Wow.
Maybe by the time people hear this, who knows? We're just getting closer and closer. It's like it's almost time. So we'll see. So as soon as baby comes, I'll probably be out for at least 1 week here, maybe 2, but should be able to like hop on the phone for an hour or something. You know, because dads, honestly, the first few months, you're just the guy without boobs. You're not really that helpful. You take care
You're
of
not
mom.
usually the guy without boobs?
Well, yeah, but the kids are like, hey, you know, they hand you your kid, and the kid's like, wait, you don't know, you're the wrong one.
Anything to offer. You don't have anything to offer me.
Not the mama. And so, you know, so your job is just to take care of mama, right? It's to keep the house clean. It's to get food, to bring water and all that. So, so I should be able to find an hour here or there, but that's mostly what we're working on. So I have a whole 3-part video series, not to, you know, one up the 2-part video series you have coming out there, Joe, but the 3-part series, related to convincing your spouse to let you buy a Tesla. And that's a whole thing. And then I also have another video I did about a calculator that I built to help people figure out the charging cost. It's already up on the website. I do need to add the metric units for people that you know, because things are priced differently. Like, you know, obviously gallons don't exist, but you do price by liter, so it's like totally different. So anyways,
kilometer per liter.
So I got to add all that stuff. But other than that, it's already up there. So yeah, that's what's already in the books. Anything else comes out between now and then, I might do a video, but we'll see, you know, because if baby comes, then forget it. That's why I kind of put these, preloaded these.
Well, I know it goes without saying from our behalf, but like if you have a baby on Wednesday or Thursday or anytime like between now and the next podcast, obviously like we understand and our audience understands, like don't feel like you get the carve out time or anything. Well, Joe and I can handle it obviously if you need to, so.
Cool.
Yeah,
I appreciate
obviously,
that. Yeah.
Obviously.
I think after 1 week, I think like that's what I'm saying. Like on the second week, I ought to be able to just pull away for an hour or whatever. So
do whatever you need, man. No pressure here.
I'll be over here like, I got a hangnail. I can't do this today. Tim, can you just do it by yourself?
I have to lean forward to grab the DVD. I can't be bothered.
Yeah, I love that story.
Until I have a dedicated DVD grabber working for me full time in my house.
Roomba with a
little
thing on it.
We need
a Roomba for DVDs.
Cool.
Oh, well, is that it, guys?
I think so.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see you
in
our
ludicrous future.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you like what we do and you want to kind of help get it out there, you can give us a nice review on any of your podcast streaming platforms, whichever one you use. That kind of helps get it out there. Also, we do have a Patreon set up, so you can join us there at patreon.com/ourludicrousfuture. You can get your name in the credits, meet a whole other group of like-minded people. It's a lot of fun. We do appreciate it. We'll see you there. Thanks.